Hello everybody, welcome back to Red Tone Studio. It's been a while, but I've got something brand new for you today. Today we're going to be putting together an LC25 from CAPI. Classic Audio Products of Illinois. Anyways, I don't think they go by that anymore. CAPI Inc. So, we've got a lot of parts here. I've got them split out. I've got circuit boards, faceplate, quite a few bags of parts, a couple of transformers. But first, let's talk about tools you're going to need. A good multimeter. This one needs a new battery, so we're going to skip that for today. A good magnifying glass, a good soldering station, a sponge is always good. Good solder, that's very important. Here I've got a Kester No Clean SN63PB37 at 0.8 millimeters. So there you go. This is very good solder. I was using some pretty cheap solder before, but this one is good. So I've already built a couple of CAPI VP312s sitting over there in my rack. So this is going to be a little bit more to do. I mean, there are a lot of different pots, a lot more bags of stuff. So this one's going to take me a little while. I'm not going to talk through the whole thing. I have already built one of the op amps, the CA2520, I believe. So that is ready to go, already tested. And you can watch my video on that over here if you want to check that one out. If you want to check out my VP312 videos, those will be in the description and here as well. So let's jump into it. First, we need to start with the CAPI DTO5 discrete op amp. I'm following along on the CAPI tutorial page, so easy enough to do, I hope. And we'll go through and we'll get this put together. So first I opened up all the packages for this DTO5 op amp. Here's the circuit board. Finding all the little pieces. As you can see, placing the capacitors first. Does not matter which direction they are in. Soldering them up. Cleaning up all the solder pads. There you go. All three capacitors in. Now I'm using my multimeter to bend over the diodes. Make sure you put these in the correct orientation. The black band faces the way the triangle is pointing. So that's the negative. Then solder them in. Clip off the leads, clean them up. Get ready now for the resistors. These, it doesn't actually matter which direction they go, but they have a little circle around the hole for the resistor side. So install those all in. Turn it over, solder it up. Clip them off. Clean them up. Good way to reflow the solder just to make sure that they're in there correctly. Now I'm putting in the transistors. Make sure you get the right one in the right spot and they are facing the right direction. Easy to see on these circuit boards. They are screen printed just correctly so that you can't actually get it wrong. Now the next set of transistors. When you're soldering these, you want to kind of skip around so you don't get them too hot. That's why I'm doing them in groups. It gives me room to solder, but then also be able to jump around and make sure that I'm not getting them hot enough to break them. Clip off the leads, clean them up. Now here's the little connector piece, a little fidgety to get to hold it just right in my clamp. And now we'll start on the main PCB. Getting all my parts laid out. I use a piece of tape for those single resistors. I'm going through with my multimeter that I did get working and checking them to make sure that they all have the right number and labeling them so I can grab them easier as we go. The ones that are tied together, it's easy to write on the little strip. And then I am ready to go to put those resistors in. But first I am starting with the diodes. Something you'll notice here if you have a really sharp eye is that I put the wrong diodes in the wrong holes. So later on, you'll see that they're kind of messed up as I pulled them out and put them in the right holes later on. But for now, if you're following along, just make sure that you're putting yours in the right place. But I was able to catch that before I powered it on, so no harm, no foul. Soldering those diodes in. Clipping off the leads. Cleaning them up. Sorry for the jumpy video work, but I only have two hands. So now we're putting those resistors in. We're starting here with the PR resistors. Make sure you get those only in the PR holes. I was reading some of those wrong. There are some RR resistors as well, also numbered 1 through whatever. So yeah, make sure you get those in the right holes. You can see I've got 2 of them in the wrong holes already. Again, I was able to find that as I went into the RR resistors and changed it later on. Soldering that group in, cutting them off. Now I'm continuing on with the rest of the resistors, or at least another set of resistors. There are a lot of resistors on this board, which makes sense seeing how it's an EQ. A resistor wire bender would have sure helped make this look a lot cleaner. That is on my next list of tools for making these. But you can see I soldered a few in, and now I'm going back and putting some more resistors in. Having them all labeled at the beginning really helps speed up that process. There you go, soldering them all on. Clipping off the leads. Cleaning them up. It's important to do this. Even though I have this video sped up, all the footage that I had, there you go, nice. Resistor installed PCB. More to come though. Anyways, it took about 7 hours worth of video to finish this project. So here I got the next set of resistors. Since most of them do not have matches, all of them got the blue tape method. Here I'm just putting them down, using my multimeter to check them, label them. Makes it way easier to put them in later on. So now I'm ready to install. These are all the CR resistors. Putting them in, I started with CR1 and then just worked my way up for the most part. You can see I skipped one and had a value that was similar to another one, close to it probably, so I just skipped it to make sure that I was not going to put the wrong resistor in the wrong hole. I probably could have used the resistor band chart to figure out exactly which one, because of course the multimeter doesn't read the exact, or the resistors drift a little bit depending on temperature. So sometimes I'm not 100% on the readings. So that's why I skipped a few. But then by the time I got to the end of putting all of these in, I was able to figure out, which ones I was missing. There we go. Going back in and putting those last couple in. And then lots and lots of soldering. You can see the dog in the back is quite bored of this process. She just sleeps back there most of the time. With all those resistors, it's hard to get in, even with the pencil tip solder and gun, to really make sure that they're soldered well. So really here, it's very important to go back once you cut the leads and reflow the solder. There we go, cutting all those leads. I try to trim them as close to the PCB as possible. You never know what you're putting them up against. You want to make sure they're not going to jump out and catch anything. Then, like I mentioned, going back, reflowing all the solder, making sure that they were all well soldered down, no cold joints. This will help, going forward. I will say on this project, I never had to take it back out and reflow all the joints like I did on some of my other projects. So now I've got some of the small capacitors that I'm putting in. Again, these don't care about polarity, so they can go in any direction. There we go. Now I'm putting in the giant ones. It's nice on this PCB. They're made for the capacitors that come in the kit. So all those boxes kind of help you decide, which capacitors go where. You can, of course, still mess them up, but at least it's another check to make sure that you're putting them in the right spot. Up on my computer screen, I have the build guide too that has all the breakdowns of the bombs, and where they go on the board. So that really helps a lot. CAPI has done a great job with documentation for the most part. so you know where everything goes. So here I'm flipping it over and putting more solder in. It's really starting to fill up there on the bottom. But as far as documentation, I think this one did a fine job. It could be a little bit better as to, you know, which resistors to put in first, that sort of thing. It kind of walks you through it, but I've had some of his other builds do a little bit better job. It would be nice to have a couple more hints and stuff going through, like don't put this here yet, or start with this diode first or something like that. But overall, the documentation is good enough that even I can do it. So here's the next set of capacitors, black and yellow. Again, these are not polarized, so they can go in any direction. Now back to soldering. If you know of a good way to show this in a video better, let me know down in the comments. My hand gets in the way a lot. I try to get it from, the most usable angle, but yeah, sometimes everything just kind of gets in the way. I've tried top down in the past, and then my head gets in the way, so there's really no good way to do it. So here I'm putting in the IC chips. These are little op amps, I believe. Make sure that they're going in the right direction. We'll talk about that later. They're a little bit hard to get in because you got to get those feet, bent just right for them to slip in. But these weren't too bad. Here again, I'm soldering them up in a kind of a zigzag stepped pattern so I don't overheat them. And then I'm moving on to the next set. Starting at the top, moving my way down. They've got a little circle that needs to go facing the bottom, or the square peg on the circuit board. So it's hard to mess them up, but you'll see this one is really hard to get in using a couple tools. And then you'll see I was getting a little frustrated. And if you look really close, that last one's in upside down. I did not notice it until I powered it up and released some of the magic smoke. So I burnt up a couple of resistors, and that seems to be it. I got a new op amp just to be sure, and I replaced resistors, and everything worked just fine. But we'll talk about that at the end. So there's another set of ICs. And some of the bigger barrel capacitors. These are polarized, so make sure that you're putting them in the right spot. You can see they have the plus and the minus there on the silk printing of the PCB. I'm also putting in this little transistor. And then the upright barrel capacitors also have a plus and the minus. Then some of the connector pieces going on. Soldering those guys in. Quick, easy job. And now I'm putting the mounts in for the CAPI op amp that I built previously off camera. You can go watch my video on how I made that for my VP312 builds. Now I'm installing that DT05 op amp. Now I put a little piece of tape down so that the transformer doesn't actually sit on the PCB, and then I'm soldering in that little transformer. Now I'm ready for that big transformer. So first I set it on there, make sure that my wires are going to be the right length, and get them cut to roughly the right length and stripped. Two of them go straight, or 2 or 3 go straight, and then the rest of them go to the top. So now I'll bolt her in. Screw it down nice and tight. Strip my wires like I mentioned. I strip them pretty short, so only a little bit goes through so that they solder up really nice. Had to use my magnifying glass to get them into the hole. The little strands of the wire get stuck sometimes, so it's a little tough to get them in. So I soldered in those 3 to begin with, and then I'll get the rest of those 5 or 6 there at the top. Get them in. A little tough because you push one in and the other one falls out, but eventually I got them. It's nice and color coded on the PCB. I did not get the Litz version, so I saved myself the $5, and then the wiring diagram also lines up on the PCB to the right colors. So now we've moved on to the switch PCB. So again, here there are a ton of resistors. Always checking the BOM to make sure I've got the right resistors in the right spot. So first I'm putting in the diodes and then some resistors. This is a little PCB, and sometimes those letters are hard to read. You can see how I was bending them over there with my multimeter lead, so they all look mostly consistent. Then I'm just working my way up the PCB, starting with resistor number 1 all the way up to 25 or 26. They get really close together here up at this end. And then work my way through and solder them all in. A little tough to get into that little area. You can see I'm pushing around that PCB quite a bit because it's super light and all those leads really get in the way. Clipped them all off, and of course going back and cleaning up that solder, making sure that they're all fully soldered. You saw I had one there where I wanted to put some more solder on that one connection. Sometimes they bridge over when I'm soldering, especially when they're this close. So that's why I had that solder sucking tool. So now it's time to install the switches. You got to make sure that the 12 matches the 12 or the 1 matches the 1 so that you line them up correctly. If you look really close, I did not line that first one up correctly. But the rest of them all got installed just right. I should have gone back and checked. But I was trying to rush through and film, so I did not get that one fixed. Still works though. So you want to put them in the L bracket, at least with a couple screws, so that they're all in the right spot. It makes it easier putting it together in the future. And then you'll be able to solder them together. And you know it's going to go back together much better in the future. So make sure it's sitting level and nice, and then go through and solder them all in. Now I'm putting the standoffs on the L bracket for the main PCB. Put the little connectors on the PCB, slide it in just right so those connectors go into the switch PCB. Make sure all the screws are in. And then from in between the L bracket and the switch PCB, you're supposed to be able to solder those little connectors in. I had a hard time getting the solder in, especially on that left one. But I was able to do it. Take it all back apart again. And then you can stand it up on end there, solder the rest of those connectors in. So now is the time we can install those extra switches. You had to get those first switches put in first to make sure that you can get that connector installed correctly. If you install the connector first, then you wouldn't be able to get behind it and solder it. See, I did not show you soldering the rest of those switches, so you're welcome. But I am now installing the diodes, the LEDs, light emitting diodes. You need to have this installed and the switch installed with the faceplate, so you make sure that those LEDs are getting into the right spot, and then you can go and solder them in. Turns out I did not solder those switches earlier, so you do get to see soldering more switches. I was doing them in groups of 2 so that we were spreading that heat around again. The switch can go either way. I don't think there's a polarity in the switch, so I just installed it by the picture in the build guide. So that was pretty easy. So we take it all apart again, clean up the solder, hook it up to the main PCB. Now we're putting it on the L bracket, hopefully for the last time for you. It was not the last time for me. Put the faceplate on. We put on all the screws or all the nuts. Please tighten them up with a driver of some sort. I was just using a pair of pliers. And now we're putting on all of our knobs. There are a lot of knobs. So you face these at the negative 15, and you tighten them up. And as long as you haven't turned any of those switches, they'll all be correct. Because they are detented, and you will notice if one is off when you are turning it around. And, up at 0 or whatever, they'll be off just a little bit, and that might bother you. So make sure you try your hardest here. All right, so I have it finished. I've got it here in my rack. It is no longer smoking, so everything is working great. I have it set up now with my AKG 414, which you are hearing, and it's going through my warm audio WA273 into the LC25 from CAPI. I'm going to make some adjustments, and so you can kind of hear it. If you want some more information or some more shootouts between different things, maybe hardware versus plug-in or on a kick drum or a snare, just let me know. So anyways, I have everything set at 0 right now. I'm going to put my headphones on, and then I'm going to start adding in some frequencies, and let me know what you think. All right. So first we're going to start with the very low, the 25. I don't think there's really anything in my voice at 25. I turn it all the way up, all the way down. Yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. So we'll leave that one right in the center. Now let's move up to the 50 hertz. 50 hertz, 50 hertz, 50 hertz, 50 hertz. Yeah, there's a little bit of 50 in there for sure. So yeah, let's just give it one notch. I don't want to get too muddy at 50 hertz, especially in a voiceover like this. Now we'll move up to 100 hertz. 100 hertz, 100 hertz. This is where it kind of gets a little muffly, a little boxy. Not boxy, I would say muffly. And we don't want a lot of that. So we could take that out and nice crystal clear, or you can have a little bit in there if you're looking for that really low end. So I'm going to leave it just one notch up. It might get a little muffly, but if I'm straight on the mic, it works pretty good. So then we'll move up to the 200 hertz, and this is again where it gets a little muffly or boxy. I'm not sure where to put this one. Yeah, let's just cut that one by just a couple there. Just a couple. Yeah, right about there. And then we'll move up to the 400 hertz. This is where it can get really boxy. If I go all the way up, oh, there you can really hear it. Really, really hear it, and you can hear it, see it, and hear that it's peaking. Peak, peak, peak. Yep. A lot of distortion in that one. So I am going to cut that. Oh, yeah. That feels good. And then we'll move up to the 800. The 800 here, if I go way up and to hear it, yeah, it definitely gets really boxy. Don't want that. So we're going to take that down, take it out. Take it out, I kind of lose my vocal. I think this is where a lot of the power of my vocal is, so I am going to leave it a little bit up, actually. And then we'll move to 1.6. This is where I usually boost my vocal when I'm singing, because it really cuts through the mix. So I think going way up, obviously, is too much, but yeah, quite a bit up, actually. I like that sound. Really cuts through. Then we'll move on up to the 3.2. Now this mic already has a lot of 3, so yeah, you can see if I boost it, it does not sound good. So I think usually, yeah, we'll just leave it straight up at 0. So now we get into the higher frequencies. We're at 6.4 now. So 6.4, we add that crispness at the very top end. Yeah, I like that. What happens when we take it out? Kind of sounds a little dull. Oh yeah. So we'll add some of that crispness at the top, a couple notches, and then the air here up at 12.8. Not quite 20K, as some can do, but yes, I had that in, and it gets super crispy at the top, a little bit of sibilance. So we're going to back that off, but I do like it. I think it really rounds it out. Yeah, so there you have it. This is my voice. Now, if I go off, this is my voice with it off. This is my voice with it on. This is my voice with it on. This is my voice with it off. This is on. This is off. This is on. So we're going to leave it on for the rest. You see, there you have it. A CAPI LC25. I put it together in about 7 hours, like I mentioned before. A lot of that was video time as well and setting up cameras. So I think I could probably do it in 5 hours. It definitely was not an easy kit. There's a lot of parts and 2 PCBs at least. So I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, but
I think it went all right, and the next one will go really well. I plan on getting another one to go in the next section of my rack so that I can do stereo, EQ if need be. Yeah, so everything went really well. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching till the end, and we'll see you in the next one.